Well, a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen, are pretty upset in our community about the political party that black people have voted for, the Democrat Party. Black people have been voting for the Democrat Party for a long time to no avail. Only thing black people got was some black faces that represent left-wing white supremacy, but we never got anything tangible out of it. How the left-wing white supremacists feel, well, that is doing something for you, having Maxine Waters or Clyburn or any other cast of characters that's in the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, the Democrats, and we have called them many, many times before, the authoritarian Democrats, they don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in letting people make their own decisions. They want to lord and master over you. We've seen this time and time again, during the time of the virus and many other measures. They want to continue certain things with that, even after the fact that everything has dropped off. Other countries have just moved on and getting back to living their lives like we were doing prior to all of this happening. Well, the Democrats know, especially in our community, that we're not, checking for them. We're a lot of us saying, you know what, I'm going to sit it out. I'm not voting for these people. I'm good. Some of us may say, you know what, I'm going to do a protest vote because I want to stick it to the Democrats and let them know that I did it so it can be quantified on paper, that know I did it. But either way, a lot of black people saying that we're not voting for the Democrats because we see how they have screwed us. We haven't gotten anything. They haven't done nothing for black people. And then when you come up and they try to retort that, it's something that the government should do, like infrastructure. That's the government's job to maintain infrastructure. That's not doing something for black people. A child tax credit, that's something for everybody. That's not something specifically for black people. It didn't address not one thing that black people asked them for, like rein in the race soldiers. Talk about what's going on, with, our, particular wealth gap. I'm saying reparations. That's something that definitely would fix the wealth gap for sure. Many, many things that Democrats could be doing, but they're not doing because they choose not to. They try to lie and say it's Joe Manchin. Oh, it's Kristen Sinema. Oh, but notice that it wasn't a Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema that are giving all this money to the Ukraine. You notice that? But they had a bill that was introduced this week in the House of Representatives, and the fellow you see on your screen is why I have him up there. His name is Representative John Larson. He's a Democrat out of Connecticut, and he's introduced the Civic Duty to Vote Act. Now, what is this Civic Duty to Vote Act? It was introduced last Monday, and it required an eligible citizen to appear to vote in regularly scheduled general election for federal office and for other purposes. It said to be eligible, a person has to be registered to vote in the state they reside in for the upcoming election. If a person fails to do so, there will be a $20 civic penalty. So the Democrats want to charge you $20, folks, because you're not voting. This is how desperate they are. I've never seen nothing like this in my life, that now you want to charge people a penalty for not voting because you're worried about black folks, especially sitting it out. Look how far they're going, ladies and gentlemen. Now they say, but the bill's text allows valid and sufficient reasons for not appearing, say, which include those not registered to vote, and say after a good faith attempt to do so. And say other reasons that would save them from the penalty include the inability to appear to vote due to an emergency, someone with sincerely held religious or personal beliefs, as well as if they are simply unaware of their eligibility to vote. That's interesting. So, okay, well, if you pass this, which if you pass it, it's going to get struck down because this is so unconstitutional. You can't force people to vote. You can't do that. They say the bill states that a waiver would be available for citizens who cannot afford to pay the $20 penalty and instead commits them to perform, check this out, an hour of community service. So if you don't have the money, ladies and gentlemen, the $20 to give them, they want you out here sweeping the roads, picking up trash, maybe painting, maybe doing all kind of things that they want you to do. Community service. So imagine that. Imagine that. Boy, these Democrats are interesting. Now, let's continue. Let's say if someone doesn't pay the $20 fine, the bill text adds that they would not be subject to any additional civil or criminal penalties or any denial of government benefits. That law enforcement agencies would also not be allowed to use any information provided by the person related to this act, such as their reason for not appearing to vote in any further criminal investigations, according to the bill. Now, of course, this guy had been in Congress since 1999. He's, served on the task force of election reform. It said that he develops reforms to take big money out of politics and address. Let me tell you something. They have not done that at all. That Citizens United decision where it lets major corporations basically buy politicians in elections. The Democrats ain't done nothing about that. And that's something they could do, right? Now, they said Larson showed a post on Facebook this week about his work on the bill, saying it will increase voter turnout and engagement. He said democracy only works if the people exercise the civic duty to vote. Now, let's go into that. Let me repeat what he said again. Democracy only works if the people exercise the civic duty to vote. In other words, this system becomes illegitimate if you don't participate. And the Democrats know that. See, the Democrats know it's just not about these midterms that's coming up. Oh, this is not just about that. This is the future they're looking at. They're looking at, wait a minute, black people talking about not voting. That's a problem. Because let me tell you why that's a problem for black people not voting. It has nothing to do with black people, but actually do have something to do with black people. Black people are the leaders of culture in America. And the only way you can stop black people from doing certain things is you have to force them. You have to lord and master over them. You have to put, the race soldiers. You have to do something to force black people into something. Black people can make not voting very fashionable, the in thing to do. It's just not to vote. And they know this. And they know that if black people check out the process and black people say, you know what, we good, we're getting nothing out of it anyway, so do you. I don't really care right now, right? We haven't really got anything out of voting if you think about it. Everything we've ever gotten in this country has been through the grassroots, foot on the pavement. That's what it is. Going toe-to-toe with the race soldiers. That's how black people got everything. Show me a time that black people just came out and voted mass numbers and we got something. Listen, the civil rights movement that happened in America, right? The only reason the civil rights bill even happened because they were forced to by what? The grassroots having their foot on the pavement. Anything that we get in this country, you look at you talking about Black Lives Matter. Let's go back to that. You know why them corporations were giving so much money to Black Lives Matter? Because they were scared. Because they're scared that, hey, if black people got their foot on the pavement, we got a history of turning up. We don't care. It is what it is. And then folks like, man, give Black Lives Matter all that money. Now, unfortunately, because, we didn't have no checks and balances to deal with Black Lives Matter back then. That's why they finessed it. Well, listen, if you follow what Malcolm X said, you won't have a Black Lives Matter problem. And what Malcolm said about them folks is you can't come in here running anything. You can't even really be a part of anything. But if you want to donate, go ahead. If you want to, hey, we got some supplies over here, that could help y'all in what y'all got. Okay, cool. You can say something from outside the gate, but you can't be in the gate. You can't be in no leadership. You can't do nothing. Period. That motto of Malcolm X is the way I believe 100%, because Malcolm knew a whole lot more than a lot of people today. Black Lives Matter wouldn't have had the problem that it had or being fully infiltrated by the liberal and white LGBT, how it was infiltrated, right? That would have never happened if they had followed what Malcolm said. And they wouldn't be having these problems they got right now either. But we've never gotten anything in this country by just going to a poll and vote. Everybody else have gotten things, though, off of black people's vote. So when you're not getting anything out the deal, then what's the point? What is the point? All you're doing is keeping politicians in office that's getting millions of dollars every year, and you get nothing. You get nothing. So what is the point of rewarding the politicians with your vote? What's the point of rewarding these other groups? Which your votes get them in, and what they do, they give all the spoils to all these other groups. That's what they do. So black folks say, man, the hell with y'all. But I want y'all to see how these Democrats are moving. This is what they do. They want to force you to vote. Now, of course, the GOP gonna fight against that. We know that. But it's the intention. Now, they said that the post itself, garnered a mixed response, including one commentator who replied, if people want to vote, they can vote. If people don't want to vote, we live in a country where they're free to do that. Now, I say the bill's introduction comes amid a wave of election initiatives. Many Republican-led states have tightened access to the ballot. This is in the name of election security. This is what they're saying. They say by passing new voter laws, no, voter ID is not tightening anything. Okay. And I got a podcast I'm going to do tomorrow about some black people, how they responded, and white folks, how they respond about this voter ID thing. Because I said before, every black person I know got ID. Every one of them. No, what that is that they want illegal immigrants to vote. That's what they want. So, but they got to use black people. Okay. Now, these Democrats, so-called, had talk about all this voting rights, this vote, but now they're going to force you to. Now they want to force you. This is where they at. This is how desperate the Democrats are, ladies and gentlemen. Is now they say, if you don't pay your $20 because you didn't vote, well, then now you're going to have to go do an hour of community service. Did this what black people voted for in 2020? This what you voted for? I'm just curious, ladies and gentlemen. Your Civic Duty to Vote Act. Is that what you voted for? To be forced to do something that you may not want to do because you may not believe in a particular candidate. You may look at the system as, hey, it's not doing nothing for me, so what's the point? I got better things to do with my time. Shoot, I'm trying to feed these kids. I'm trying to keep the roof over my head. I'm trying to make sure that car of mine outside is running and making sure I pay for it because, hey, in America, we all live off of credit, right? I'm trying to make sure I can, put clothes on my back. Why the hell I'm going to go over there and worry about them, some politician is living a whole lot better than me? See, inflation don't bother a politician because they got money like that. They not worried about it. They get set-asides. They get freebies. They get all that, these politicians. So why am I worried about putting them in office? For what? What do they do? The Congressional Black Caucus, what do? They do nothing for black people. Nothing. And if they do something for a few black people, it's going to be the black people that's kind of tied in. You know what I'm saying? The people that like in the Boule and all them other ones, they cool with doing something for them. But the average rank and file black person, they're not doing nothing for us. See, but see, they're scared, ladies and gentlemen. They're scared. They're scared that black folks, they don't have a whole of black folks no more. They're scared because people like, outfits like Black News Channel failed, putting all kind of money into that. What, $50 million? Then outfits like CNN Plus has failed, which they spent $300 million to get that off the ground, plus an additional $200 million for advertising. So $500 million they spent on CNN Plus, and it wasn't even an operation, not even a full. I think they're supposed to shut down completely by the 30th. They're failing all over the place. This is not a good sign for them. Okay, it's not a good sign. Because they want to make sure to keep everyone in, you might well say like the Matrix. There you go. They want to keep you in the Matrix. As long as they're keeping you in the Matrix, everything is running fine. But when you're not, operating in the Matrix, well, now the Democrats trying to send out Agent Smith. You understand? Because all this not voting, that's not a good thing for them. And the Democrats know they'll never be in office if they don't force black people to get out there and vote. See, you can send all your Democrat shields out there. You could try to shame black people. You can lie on our ancestors all day and say, you be shaming your ancestors. Your ancestors died before you can vote. No, the hell they didn't. They died for freedom. That's what they died for. They died for justice. That's what they died for. They didn't sit up and lose their life behind no freaking votes. They didn't do that. You mean to tell me everything that black folks were suffering in this country, that's what we died for? That was the Montgomery bus boycott about some freaking voting? No, it's about black people, folks being treated right. You understand? When black folks was hitting the pavement in the civil rights movement, did they do it for voting, or they did it because our people was being terrorized in this country? They did it for that second reason. They didn't do it for freaking voting. You understand? See these people, you got to stop these people in their tracks when they lie on our ancestors like that. Nobody out here was fighting and dying for no freaking voting. What has voting really done for black people? If you think about it, what has it really done? Show me where we just came out and mass voted and look what we got. Look, we came out there and the mass voted in history. The biggest, vote we ever did in our lives as black people was Barack Hussein Obama. And what did we get out of that? What did we really get out of Barack Hussein Obama? Not a freaking thing. He was in there 8 years and didn't do a freaking thing for black people. They had the nerve to tell black people, come out and protect his legacy. He had the nerve to say that. He had 8 years to do something for black people. If he did something for black people would have definitely came out and quote unquote protected his legacy, right? But you didn't do nothing for black people. So black people now say, hey, you don't do nothing for us. We good. See, the beautiful thing about the internet is that we can easily go back and see what you said, what you did, how you moved. If you're double talking, if you're trying to finesse, we got you now. So we don't have to depend on the mainstream media running their propaganda for y'all. See, all that left wing propaganda don't work on black people no more. You understand? This is why they also want to push censorship, because the authoritarian Democrats, they want to force you to vote and they don't want you to hear the truth whatsoever. They don't want you to hear the truth. And even if you push that on these websites, on these social media websites or whatever, people still can get their message out because they can create their own website. They can create their own. Like we have a website and if everything goes as to plan, everything will be fully launched with a new upgrade by next week. Well, yeah, that's supposed to be next week. And the reason why I want to make sure I always have a place to talk is because they do funny style things and certain things I can't talk about on this platform. It's a platform that get out to a lot of people, but I tell everyone who's making content, create you a website, because you always want to have a place where no one could, tell you not to talk about a certain thing, or you can't interview a certain person because they are this or they're that. You know what I'm saying? And these platforms, no, you should be able to talk to whoever you want to, whatever subject you want to talk about. And sometimes you can't do it on their platform, and that's fine. I'm a firm believer that they rules, their platform. We'll follow. But if we want to talk about a certain subject matter, we do it on our own platform. And that's the way that works. But they have lost control of the narrative. That's for sure. They can't scare black people to vote because, see, they want to use boogeymen, and see, they can't use Trump as the boogeyman. Now, I'm noticing that now it's Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is in Florida. Ron DeSantis don't affect nothing for me whatsoever. Why should I be afraid of Ron DeSantis? Oh, he's trying to destroy democracy. No, he's not. No, he's not. What? Because he getting in control of Disney with all they hiring pedos over there, them pushing all kind of filth, because he getting in control of that. I ain't tripping on that. He's getting rid of 2 black districts with representation. Well, we'll see if those maps last. And those representatives, what did they really do for black people? Let's think about that. What did they really do for black people? Now think about it. Can you name something those black people actually done for the black community, and why we should fight so hard against DeSantis with that? Even though I know what he's doing is considered wrong, but what have they done for black people where black people want to go fight that hard against DeSantis? Just A good question. See, black politicians, what you're learning too is when you don't do nothing for your community don't show up for you. And that's what's happening. I'm not lending my voice to nothing about most of these black politicians. There's small ones I may speak up here and there about. But for the most part, these black politicians, you don't do nothing for black people. Hey, you getting some issue or problem, we'll talk about it, but we ain't gonna come defend you. It's just that simple. Either you're gonna fight for the community or you're not. And if you're not, the community gonna show you better than they could tell you. When you need us to back you up, you're not gonna have it. Because one thing the white supremacist would do, he would leave you out to dry. And he would not back you up. That is a dumb move to invest your whole career, your whole everything into the white supremacist. He has a proven track record of not being loyal. Because he's following the devil. And it's a devil and it has any loyalty to you? No, he don't. You be loyal to family. That's you be loyal to. Not nobody else. It's not your family. It doesn't even make sense. But the authoritarian Democrats trying to force you to vote. They are desperate. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the podcast today. You greatly appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. That way you know exactly when we post another podcast. Make sure you click the like button. It helps us in the algorithm. And if you enjoy the program, make sure you leave us a love offering. It's greatly appreciated. And I know there's many places you could come and listen to podcasts and different programs. We chose to select our podcast here today, and we greatly appreciate that. So once again, we are happy you're here, and see you next time.